Welcome everybody. Here we are with our good friend Steve, who
Very
is
good.
the master. What would be give me your official title, your intro.
I'm a registered physical therapist, specializing in sports medicine, specifically with endurance athletes.
Which is perfect because when Lori injured herself, and I know it's a surprise because Lori's superwoman, right?
Impervious.
No, we came to Steve and he fixed her up, and it's been awesome to have your knowledge and your experience, and obviously be able to do the physical therapy, but also you know a whole lot about everything sports.
Well,
When it comes to
I have had a lot of experience, that's for sure.
So one of the things I want to talk about today is shoes. Obviously, we have a lot of shoes here on the table, and
Not all of them are mine.
oh really?
No, I'm not even kidding.
I have a few here. Is this one yours?
No, that one belongs to one of my employees. It's still warm.
Oh, perfect. It's great demo then. No, the reason why we're talking about shoes is because when you're starting out running, and we're going to specifically talk about running today. There's lots of other things we could talk about, but I think running's a good one to start with. You go to the shoe store and you say, I'm going to get myself a pair of running shoes. You go to the store and you walk in and there's this wall of a bazillion shoes, and you realize, I didn't know they made so many shoes.
No, that's actually true. I think one of the most intimidating things about walking into a shoe store, regardless of what shoe store it is recognizing that there's a bunch of shoes up there, and B, I don't want to walk out of here with the wrong gender of shoe on my foot, and I don't know which side is guys or girls.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, seriously,
You can't tell from the
I've
colors
walked
anymore.
into shoe stores before and gone, I'm going to ask to try on this shoe, but I hope that it's not a transgender experience for me. So that's intimidating. But then there's also trail shoes. There's training shoes for short distance. There's shoes for competition. There's shoes for distance. Different control types of shoes. And quite frankly, when you're beginning running or even just trying to get a feel for extending your experience with running, most people don't really know what they're looking for.
Well, I'm going to tell you what happened, my experience, and you can tell me what I could have done better. So when I started running, I thought, you know what, I'm not a serious runner. I'm not going to go and buy the full kit and get the best thing. My first half marathon I ran in it was some generic, I think it was Spalding or something or other XYZ running shoe. And about halfway through that race, you think I would have figured this out during training, but halfway through that race, my feet were killing me, and I thought, these are the worst shoes ever. And so after that, I went to the shoe store to buy some running shoes, and again, I didn't really know what to do, and now we can talk about this later, but going to like a specific running store versus a Big Five versus online, there's some notes there, but I went to like the first, I don't have it here because I use them as lawn mowing shoes now and I've thrown them away since. I went to the tried and tested Nike because I knew that was a shoe that's, got some track record and it's a good company.
They have marketed their shoes well, yes.
And I'm going to skip over that just a little bit just because after doing that, I realized after running a little bit in them, that wasn't the shoe for me. So then I went to the actual running store and they suggested the Sauconys. And you can see I've gotten a lot of wear out of these.
You have worked that shoe over.
And after this pair, I had some knee pain in these shoes, and that's which made me move on to the Vibrams and progress. But let's talk about from the beginning. What should I have done walking into a shoe store, being a totally brand new runner? Not trying to look like an idiot. Like, I want some running shoes. What should I get? I was like, I want Nikes.
Well, one of the things that I really like about running stores specifically is that a majority of their staff are actually trained and experienced in understanding what the average person coming in is going to be looking for. So if you go in and say, I'm just starting running, what should I get? Or I've been running for 5 years and I want to get faster. Or I've just worn out a shoe and I'm looking for another running shoe. They'll ask you questions that'll kind of direct you towards the type of shoe you should be looking for, which really takes the running store and makes them an advantage over a big box store or online shopping because you're getting direction into what you should be looking for. Many of them will offer even a simple running analysis there in the store that gives them an idea or an impression of what type of foot mechanics you're dealing with running, because that's going to determine a lot what's the right shoe for you. You mentioned that Spalding or that XYZ running shoe, getting into an event that's going to take you 2+ hours to complete. It doesn't take long before the foot starts saying, you know what, I'm in the wrong room.
This was a bad idea.
Yeah, and the shoe is really that significant of a component for it's the main piece of equipment for running.
So I'm at the running store. They've maybe threw me on the treadmill, looked at my gait, things like that, and said, okay, what do you want? What do you feel like? What feels good? There's a lot of technical terms out there nowadays. There's zero drop. There's minimalistic. There's all sorts of stuff. Like, is it trends, or from a medical standpoint, what are we looking at here?
Quite honestly, the answer to that question is that there are a lot of trends. There's a lot of trends in not just the design of the shoe, and you talk about like a minimalist approach. Actually, this is the pure minimalist approach right here, or a minimal drop shoe. There's zero drop shoes like the Ultras put together, and then there's shoes that have a little bit more structure and support built into them. But the thing that we understand about running shoes is that not only do we want to identify what type of shoe is best for your foot, but we also want to identify what type of shoe is best for the type of training that you're doing. So we have a myriad of runners, from those that are just getting started into like the 5K, 10K arena, those that are just doing recreational running, which is 1 to 2 times a week in addition to their regular exercise program, and those that are actually going to get into a training routine for a participation in an event, whether that's a half marathon or a full marathon or something along those lines. So those are the types of questions that we need to start asking ourselves and understanding, so that we do get in the right shoe and don't put ourselves into a bind. So if I want to go forward into that, like if I'm talking to somebody, and here's another thing that's really important. Many of our running shoe store employees are runners themselves. And when you walk into one of those stores, a majority of those people are going to be, I think, between the male and the female employees, you're going to have somebody who's an average height of about 5'7". Maybe their weight's about 135 pounds average, and they run, anywhere from a 5.5 to a 7-minute mile pace for their training mileage. And you get somebody like you or me who goes in there, and we're a recreational athlete. Sure, we enjoy participating in the event, but I'm 180 pounds, 6 feet tall. So putting me in this type of a shoe for half marathon training is like death sentence for my foot, as opposed to putting me in something that has a little bit more structure, a little bit more support, a little bit more design for tolerating that kind of training. So if I was to go into understanding the type of shoes, the things you want to look for is you want to understand what type of sole material you have in the shoe. Like, for example, between these two shoes, and they're both Saucony brand shoes, this is a early version Kinvara, which is a minimalist approach and a neutral shoe.
Can we see it here? Let's move over here a little so we can see on this camera a little
and
bit
then,
more.
So this is the Kinvara, early Kinvara. We've got later Kinvaras like yours, which actually looks like a prehistoric Kinvara compared to this one, but this is the Kinvara 2, and then I'm currently wearing a Kinvara 4. But this shoe is a minimalist shoe and it's lighter, and it's great for doing shorter distance, faster runs. This Saucony right here is the Mirage, and it actually has a little bit more, if you can look at the difference here, a little bit more drop. And when we talk about drop, we're talking about the amount of thickness in the shoe from the rear foot to the forefoot. So if there's a drop in the shoe, that means that the rear foot's a little bit thicker than the forefoot. If it's a zero drop shoe, like the Ultra, then the heel and the forefoot distance are about equal. And so there's really no change in the elevation of the foot while it's standing on the ground. But this higher structure shoe does a lot for a heavier runner when they're going to be doing longer distance types of runs, because the shoe can then absorb and deal with a lot of that duration impact that occurs during the run. So those are some of the important things there. You want to look at how your shoe flexes in this kind of motion here, how it flexes in this kind of motion, and then you want to look at the structure of what we call the heel counter, this part of the shoe back here. Those are the components that describe or illustrate the stability of a shoe. So this Kinvara is going to twist and bend a lot. This Mirage is going to be a stiffer,
Much less, yeah.
stiffer shoe, and I'll pull out the orthotic, but it's not a lot heavier necessarily between these two shoes, but the structure component is very important to keep in mind. So
I'm going to jump back just a little bit. Well, really quick then, let's do this. So we kind of talked about minimalistic. What's a non-minimalistic shoe? Do we have any of those on the table right now?
We do, yeah, actually. You mentioned Nikes, and I am not a purist. I will run in Nike, and I will run in Saucony. I'll run in Adidas.
Just not Spalding.
Well, if I have to get away from something,
Okay.
and that's what's left, I
Got
will. A non-minimalist shoe is going to be something where we're going to see. Now, this is a Hoka shoe.
I call these marshmallow shoes.
They are, and surprisingly, feel how light this shoe is compared to this one.
Wow.
It's amazing how light the shoe is, but it has such a significant amount of fluff built into this EVA. Some people just love having that cushion to land on. And it has obviously a thicker rear foot than it does a forefoot. So this is going to be a positive drop shoe. This shoe that we were looking at earlier is a positive drop shoe. And these two Nikes are positive drop shoes. And these would definitely be shoes that are used for longer distance types of events. The nice thing about the Hoka is this is what we would call a mild to moderate support or structure shoe, much like the Saucony Mirage. And then this would be a moderate support stability shoe for longer runs as well. And this one is a wear to work shoe because it matches some of my shirts.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my journey really quick. And this may be too, my question, before we came to know you and things like that, I had knee pain. I'd never had knee pain in my life. I played basketball forever. I used to run in college, nothing more than maybe 4 or 5 miles. But once I started hitting 6 miles, I started getting this weird knee pain. I was a little heavier than I was in college, but I was thinking, I'm still a young guy. I'd never played football and injured myself. Why am I having this knee pain? And one of the things that we had learned just through experience, because Lori kind of experienced the same thing, is when she switched over to the Vibrams, the whole hype was that it'll make it so that your form is better. And so I didn't go Vibrams. I'm actually wearing, do the same thing. These are mine I wear all around just because I like them so much, but they're also very hashed. But this is what I switched to, which is a zero drop minimalistic sole, just without the 5 toes.
You wear out the heel enough and it becomes a negative drop.
Exactly. But once I started wearing these,
like a Newton, Newton shoes.
The Newton shoes. There we go. So once I started wearing these, knee pain went away completely. Mm-hmm. Now, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking, okay, is that because it's forcing me to have better form, or is it because the angle of the drop is making it so that I'm running? I guess that is better form again. But if I have some kind of pain like that, again, there's so many options, and if that was the answer for everybody, they wouldn't make all these shoes. But that was the answer for me. So thinking about, there's so many different options for people. It depends on your body and your style.
It depends on that dramatically. In fact, that's one of the things that we look at in the field of physical therapy, and also the running store specialists will look at relative to a runner or an individual is what type of foot structure, what type of foot strike, what kind of stride pattern does that individual have, and that's going to determine what is going to be the right kind of shoe. So the type of knee pain that you were experiencing and why you were experiencing it could be completely different for another dozen people who have quote unquote knee pain and come into a running store and saying, what do I need to do about this knee pain? Your answer working for you may not work for somebody else. It's going to depend on some other factors that have to do with the flexibility of the individual. It's going to have to do with the duration of running that they're doing, or the frequency of the running that they're doing, the kind of recovery that they're getting in between, and it's going to also have to do with what their overall conditioning level is. You have people that just jump right in and do a ton all at once, and they put themselves in a different kind of a risk category, and those that actually don't give themselves enough recovery or don't work on flexibility. Maybe cross-training isn't enough of a part of their program. So there's so many different factors that come into it. And what we like to do with our running evaluations is we like to identify the height of the runner to the length of their stride. And that's one of the, we have found in the years that we've been working with runners specifically, that stride count, that length of stride relative to their height, is one of the most consistent predictors for the type of pain and recovery that they're going to have relative to running injuries.
Okay.
It's amazing what that does for people.
That sounds like another video that we need to do.
I think we need to talk about stride counting at one point, yes.
Okay, so just to go back to my journey again, I want to just finish this off. So this shoe, knee pain. This shoe, no knee pain. It was great. This shoe, I kind of count these the same thing, just because this is wearing socks, this is not wearing socks. And I could be wrong, but that's just the way I felt when I would run, kind of the same experience. But after, let's see, am I in frame? There we go. After, when I was training for my first full marathon, after the first 15 miles, my feet started feeling really hammered, like you were saying. Depends on your training, how you are, what you can stand. Because Lori, she can run all day long in the Vibrams, no problem. But past 15 miles, my energy was there, but my legs just stopped working because they were like, we're tired. We're tired of the impact. And so one of the shoes you told us to check out was the Ultras. And I was really skeptical at first just because I'm like, that's such a huge sole. And I put it on, I feel like I was wearing clown shoes and stuff. But now, after I switched over, it was a big question. I think I switched to this shoe 2 weeks or a week before the actual my first full, and I was like, that's really dangerous to switch your shoe that soon.
It is.
But I was getting hammered. I knew I couldn't do the full 26.2 the way I wanted to. So I went like 8 miles in these beforehand, and it was a total dream. So during the marathon, that was great. I've been loving these since for just running. So it's been awesome. And so that was my kind of progression of shoe. And right now, I don't see any reason to go away from the zero drop with the nice soft cushion.
Because your stride style works with that shoe. Now, the other thing you mentioned, you talked earlier a little bit about, is it just fad? Is it just something that's coming and going? We have in our industry, in the years that the Vibram shoe has started to gain in popularity, as well as the zero drop approach in shoes, because some people who hear the word zero drop, maybe they'll see it on a social site or hear it from friends or whatever, and they're like, well, all my friends are running in zero drop, I got to go get zero drop, and they don't know what they're doing. It has actually brought a lot of business into our doors because people are going out and subjecting themselves to a level of stress that their body isn't really prepared for. So, like you said, Lori, she can run all day in this shoe, and there are people who can run 200 yards in this shoe and they're hurting. So our rule of thumb recommendation for people who want to incorporate the barefoot running or the zero drop or full minimal approach is, with this kind of a shoe, about 15% of their overall weekly volume in this kind of a shoe, for that very reason that you mentioned. It does do a lot of strength training for the foot. But think of this, when you're talking about strength training and on the general parameters, let's say I'm going to be doing bench press or I'm going to be doing bicep curls or something like that. If I want to get stronger, the strength is actually something that I gain from breaking down tissue through the training. And that means that I've got to subject the tissue to a great level of resistance or force, and then also give it a recovery. Running in this type of a shoe all the time subjects you to the greater amount of force without the recovery that allows the rebuilding and the that type of replenishment and tissue physiology that allows you to progress in strength. So 15% of you running in something like this, and then even a minimal like a Kinvara or some of the Brooks lines. Mizuno makes some great minimalist shoes. Adidas does. All the lines have some very good shoes in them. It's just a matter of making sure that it fits on your foot, but incorporating them. Now, the next thing I was going to go into is, say for example, for me, marathon training, a minimalist or minimal support shoe, great for my short runs, great for my speed work. A shoe with a little bit more support, great for my long runs. But the other thing that it does is, sure, I'm buying 2 pairs of shoes to rotate,
right.
But these shoes, each of them, as I'm rotating them in my training, will now last longer as than they would if I was just training through one shoe, breaking it down, and then going into another shoe. So you end up extending the life of your shoes by rotating, and you end up giving yourself a chance to vary up your running program so that you can progress and develop in your training successfully. One other thing I wanted to mention about that, and I can't remember what it was.
Oh.
It'll come to me.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll wrap up a little bit, and if it comes to you,
Yeah.
you can bring it back up. But let's jump back to the beginning again. When I say walk in, and we have that wall of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's kind of already run some couch to 5Ks and things, they kind of know what makes their feet hurt or not. So
Right.
we hopefully have given you some good information there. Throw some shoes on, run around the track at the store. A lot of the real running stores will have a 30-day or maybe not 30 days, but so many days money back if you don't destroy them.
Right.
They'll let you come in and
Right.
exchange it. So that if you end up doing a few miles, some clean miles on a track, and you go, I'm not feeling
Yeah.
it, you can go back and switch them out. But for somebody who's just, again, wanting to start something and you get what you pay for, you got to take care of your feet when you're starting this. What's the rule of thumb when you walk into that store and get that whole wall?
That takes me right back to the point that I was forgetting earlier.
Perfect.
The number one thing about buying a good running shoe, regardless of your style of running, regardless of your price point, I know that everybody thinks about that, but and regardless of what volume and type of running you're gonna be doing, the first most important thing is that shoe has to feel good on your foot. So when you go into a store and you say, okay, I kind of like this one, maybe that one, don't just pigeonhole yourself right away onto one shoe. Grab 4 or 5 shoes off the shelf, maybe 6 or more, and have the person go and get you those pairs and try shoe A on one foot and shoe B on the other foot, and until you get the shoe that feels like your foot's in a cloud. That's the first thing, because if your foot's not comfortable in the shoe, it doesn't matter if you're zero dropping, minimalist, moderate control. It doesn't matter, because if your foot's not happy, it's going to be a bad experience. So that's the first thing, and then you can build then you can narrow down from there what's going to be the right shoe.
And it is going to be a progression.
It is.
Rarely will you go in and just pick the first one. Even if you try on 1,000, you're going to get a few miles on it and then realize, you know what? I probably want something different, because you're going to grow and progress and stuff too. So.
And we call it the shoe tournament, really. It's almost like you can bracket it like the NCAA, Sweet 16. You just get down to that shoe that fits right on your foot and feels good.
Perfect. All right, Steve, unless there's anything else about shoes, we should probably wrap it up. We talked a long time.
I think that's pretty good. That covers it all. One of these days we should talk about lacing strategies too, but we can get to that, because depending on, again, the speed of your running, the terrain that you're running on, inclines, whether it's uphill or downhill, lacing strategies can be a big part of shoes too. But we can hit that another time when we talk about maybe inserts and things like that.
It's a good idea. Who would have thought? There's so much that goes into running. You just think you run outside and run, right?
And you cry when you give them your credit card to write the check for that shoe.
I don't know. I'm always happy because I know my foot's going to be happier than I was last time.
My checkbook cries.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for watching, you guys. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any questions, please drop us a line. Steve will answer any questions. I know he'll just give you his personal phone number. He's good at that.
Yeah, 8675309. Isn't that?
I think that's
There's
it.
a song
That's right.
about it. Yeah.
But look, we're going to be talking about some more really good running stuff as well.
Yeah.
And also some other good things about any other kind of sports. It's good for preventative, medical, everything that Steve's good at. We're going to pick his brains. It's going to be awesome. So thanks for watching.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
And we'll talk to you guys later.
Okay.